Welcome back to the Basement Gun Shop. Obviously we're not in my basement, we're actually in my kitchen. The girlfriend's at work, so I have the house to myself. So I thought I would do a first. A kind of tabletop review, tabletop comparison of a couple of the more popular polymer frame handguns. Starting out here on my left, we have a Glock 17. Next over we have a Springfield Armory XD 9mm. Next up we have an H&K P30 9mm. And last but not least, down here on the end, we have a Smith & Wesson M&P 40. So what I'm going to try and do is reposition the camera, talk about a couple of the strong points, what I think are the weak points of each of these types of handguns, and I'm going to reposition the camera to give you a better view of everything. So give me just a minute, let me reposition the camera, and we'll be right back and get started. Here we are. We have the Glock 17, the Springfield XD, the Smith M&P 40, and the H&K P30. 3 9mm and a 40 Smith & Wesson. Polymer frame handguns, one and all. Which is basically the way the industry's going, or it seems to be. So let's talk about a few of the differences and the features on each of these guns. The Glock 17 is your typical Glock. Okay? There is no external safety. There is just this split trigger safety. All the other safeties on the firearm are internal. The XD has this grip safety back here, and again the split trigger safety. All the other safeties on this firearm are internal. The M&P 40, oh look here, this is a striker fired gun, and it does have an ambidextrous external thumb safety. It also has Smith & Wesson's version of the split trigger safety, which is this little joint right here on the trigger, which, you know, that blocks this little part right here, blocks the frame, or blocks the trigger from moving back into the frame until it's turned, and then you can, you know, depress the trigger normally. The H&K P30 has an external safety, and it has this little button back here on the rear of the frame that allows the gun to be decocked. Now, something else I want to mention is that these three are striker fired guns. This one, the H&K P30, is not. It has a firing pin. Because of that, it also has an external hammer. This gun can be fired in both double action, and all these guns have been safety checked before this even started. So this gun can be fired double action, or you can put the safety on and it will not allow it to fire, and fire it single action. You can also put the safety on with the hammer down, and it will allow the hammer to cock partially if the trigger is pulled, but it won't allow you to complete the trigger stroke and actually fire the pistol. So that's something unusual and unique to the P30. Magazine releases. The Springfield Armory XD has an ambidextrous magazine release safety. In other words, you know, you can release it from both sides, and so does the H&K, but the H&K doesn't have your traditional button type magazine release. It has this lever on the back side of the trigger guard that you have to rotate down, just like that, or like that on the other side. The thumb safety, the external safeties on both the M&P and the H&K are ambidextrous. So that's something else. Two of these guns have what I would consider a loaded chamber indicator One of them has a way to check the chamber, and then of course the Glock does not have a loaded chamber indicator. On the Springfield XD, you have this little bar right here that if there's a round in the chamber, this will raise up. The H&K has, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, right here, there we go, there's some red enamel on the extractor. When there's a round in the chamber, the extractor sticks out a little farther and you would be able to see that red enamel to indicate that your chamber's loaded. On the M&P 40, there's this milled recess right here, and that is milled partly out of the barrel and out of the slide, so you would have to look down in that hole and see brass or silver or aluminum or whatever. But if there was a case or a round chamber, you would be able to look through that hole right there, that hole right there, and see that there's a round in the chamber. So I don't consider that a loaded chamber indicator, but these two do have loaded chamber indicators. I personally am not a big fan of a loaded chamber indicator. It is a way to just bypass all the safety rules that we've ever learned about handling a firearm. If you want to know if the chamber on this gun is loaded, if you want to know if this gun's loaded, well, look, there's no magazine, but is the gun loaded? You don't know. Lock the slide back and check it. Don't rely on a manual indicator. Manual indicators can fail. That red could be scraped off after years of use or cleaning. The piece of metal that actually contacts the case on the XD, that little tang could break off, and this could still sit flush and you still have a round in the chamber. Don't rely on a manual indicator to tell you if a gun is unloaded or not. And notice I didn't say safe, because a gun is never safe. Guns are always loaded all the time. That's what I teach all my students. Until you check it, that gun is loaded all the time. Keep your finger off the trigger and engage your brain before you engage the trigger, and you'll never have a negligent discharge. You know, we have a lot of freedoms, and with increased freedom comes increased responsibility, and making sure these are safe is one of those responsibilities. So now that I've thoroughly gotten off track, let's get back to the guns. So they all have slide releases, obviously. Here's the M&Ps, this little lever right here. The XD is a little bit larger, but it's still that flat paddle that sits up against the frame. And then, of course, the Glock is also that little flat paddle that sits against the frame. The H&K, on the other hand, has this great big lever with the bulge that sticks out, very much reminiscent of the CZ type pistols, and kind of the 1911s with extended slide releases. Takedown on these is about what you'd expect. There are some differences with the Smith & Wesson that are of note. If you want to break down a Glock, or you want to break down a Springfield XD, and I'm going to use the XD, you would check it, of course, look for daylight, nothing in the chamber, and then rotate this takedown lever up, release the slide slowly till it's almost in battery, pull the trigger and dry fire the gun, and then slide it apart. Putting it back together, you just slide it on, lock it back, rotate it down, done. Same thing with the Glock. You've got these two annoying little levers right here. You make sure the gun is empty, you know, daylight down through the mag well, nothing in the chamber. Release the slide, dry fire the gun, pull back about 4 millimeters, push down on these two annoying little levers right here that I hate, and it slides right off. Okay, fine. But in both cases, with both guns, you have to manipulate the trigger and dry fire the gun. One thing of note with the Smith & Wesson M&Ps is to disassemble this, you lock the slide back, rotate the takedown lever down, and then let me see if I can get you a view of it. You just try and zoom in just a little bit. And there it is. You see that little yellow lever in there? You're going, and I'm going to try and, well, I can't do it without looking. There we go. You reach in, and there you go. Now you see that little yellow lever sticking forward. At this point, you can just release the slide and it comes right off. So out of the polymer frame guns I have here, out of the striker fired polymer frame handguns that I have here on the table, the Smith M&P, and I believe the M&P Shield series as well, you don't have to dry fire the gun to get it apart, which Smith & Wesson designed it specifically that way to be a little more safe. Again, if you follow proper safety procedures and you check, you're not going to have a problem. But how many times do we hear people, "Oh, I was just cleaning my gun and it went off"? Okay, so, and then of course putting the gun back together, you would think there's one more step you have to pay attention to, which is after you put the slide back on the frame, the disassembly lever automatically pops back up into position, and well, okay, fine, so you're good to go, but you forgot that little lever. Well, Smith & Wesson thought of that too. So I don't know if, let me see, there we go. Hopefully you can see that lever. As soon as you slide the magazine in, the magazine pushes that little yellow lever right back into place, and the gun's ready to go. So there's nothing more for you to do. You can, of course, move it up manually if you're just going to, you know, clear it, dry fire it, and put it in the safe. But putting the magazine, if you're cleaning, if this happens to be your carry gun and you forget to move that lever back up, simply reloading the gun will put it back into place and you're good to go. Disassembling the H&K is a little different. You lock the slide back, and hopefully I can do this so you'll be able to see. Try and do this reverse. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it reverse. Maybe. After you lock the slide back, you release it and then push the slide release from the other side, and when you see this little red bit pop out here, it slides right off. And now you have access to all the internals. You can pull the barrel and the recoil spring from the frame, and or from the slide rather, clean it, oil it, put it back together, and you're good to go. And then putting the gun back together is nothing more than push the slide almost all the way back, let it forward, and now it wants to be difficult. There we go. Line that cutout up with the pin, push the pin back into place, let the slide forward, function check, safety works, trigger don't fire, decocker works, double action, single action, and you're good. So that's just a quick little review, comparison of some of the more popular polymer frame handguns on the market today. The Glock, the Springfield XD, the Smith M&P 40, and the H&K P30. So I hope you found the information useful. If you have any questions, please, by all means, as always, I encourage you, write down there in the comments section. If you have any comments, also write down there in the comments section. I try to reply to all questions, all comments, even if the people leaving them don't like the answer they get. So, as always, thanks for watching The Basement Gunshot. If you like the channel, like it, subscribe, even better. And until next time, stay safe and keep shooting.